everyone for joining. Today is gonna be our Godfather workshop. Probably should have picked a Thanksgiving themed movie, but I don't know which one is it. So we're gonna go with Godfather then. Cool. So for today, we are gonna cover these topics, right? So we're gonna talk about like two main updates that we did in the platform, right? So the 2D icon mode and the project north definition, right? So after that, I'm gonna cover some like updates on the excavation feature and on the 3D label feature, and I'm gonna show like a little bit of like a workaround with like some model duplications to create a sequence with a color coding, right? So you can show different steps of construction with the same 3D model that you have imported. And later in the end, I'm gonna talk about like a few tips and tricks, right? So today I didn't collect a lot of these because I think that I'm gonna spend a a little bit more time covering the first part. But in terms of housekeeping items, we will put the recording available on YouTube in 24 hours. You again, like there are a lot of workshops that you can check on YouTube for like power users or like how to extract more value out of the platform, right? And you can use the QA and the chat function over here. Nikan is going to help me directing these questions so I can answer them in good time. Okay, so let's start with our 2D icon mode, right? So what is the 2D icon mode? What is new is just the ability for you to replace the icons that you have on your view. So items on your view with a 2D icon, and also for linear resources, you will be able to replace them by a line that you can assign like define what is the setting of like spacing and thickness of the line, color, stuff like that. So the idea is to be able to highlight elements that you have in your screen that are sometimes harder to see because they are like in the real scale, but when you take a picture from like too far away, like you cannot see a person, you cannot see a stop sign or things like that. The fences, for example, also are like a super thin element, and then when you flip it to the 2D view, you might not be able to see that sometimes. Also to be able to create like some drawing like features, right? So you kind of like start to represent these elements with like as they are in a drawing. And for premium only customers, we have the ability to import custom icons as well, right? So the linear resources, they're going to be available next week, right? So if you try to use it today, you won't be able to see that, but next week you'll see that going on. And just a note that I'm going to show right now is that the default library of icons that we have will only apply to resources that you place from now on. So for the old resources, you need to either replace them with the new version of the resource from the library, or you need to apply the icon yourself. So let's see how this tool works, right? So over here in our view, let me just close this guy because it gives me the heebie-jeebies that it's over there in the bottom. So let's open this scenario. And just so everybody knows, from now on, I'm gonna start using our new layout for these workshops, right? So this is something that we are flipping very soon, right? So the idea that like the buttons were before over here in the bottom. So for people that are joining right now that are not using the new layout yet, so you can already change that on your own by going over here in the user settings and turning on like the toolbar over here for reference. And like the idea is that you start to get like familiar with the new layout where basically all the commands are over here in the left hand side. Okay, so
just a note here that what you were seeing in Pedro's UI is different than what you will see. Pedro's default is now the new UI. For all other users, you'll see the feature flag. If you turn it on, you'll get the new UI. And then from next week, this will be reversed for all users. So from next week, by default, all users will have the new UI, and then you can turn on the old UI as well for reference.
There you go. Exactamundo. Okay, so let's start with understanding our 2D layout, right? So where is that feature? So this feature, the new feature, is over here on the shortcut. So you can apply the 2D icon mode, which basically what it does is that you can apply this view both on the 3D view or on the 2D view as well, right? So for example, let's say that I have like a contaminated soil location over here, and I have this marker that I want to show a different icon when I go into 2D view. So this marker, I can go into this 2D mode visuals, like all the resources now will have this little command where in here you can decide to turn on or off show as icon when in 2D mode. So what this do is that I can now select a custom icon. So just for this resource, basically, I don't have like an icon in the library that show it, but I can add custom icons if I am a premium subscriber. And then you see that nothing changes over here, but if I turn this on in my 3D view, this will apply that icon in that it will replace that object by this icon, right? So you can choose to make it smaller, make it bigger, and it will always align with your view. So this is turned on the 3D mode, but the main use case for this object is when you go into 2D, it automatically already applies this, but you can turn it off if you want to. But it's just for you to create this kind of like drawing like figure of your view where like elements that are hard to see will be replaced by an icon, right? So let's do this from scratch. If I go now into this view over here, I can apply a street flagger. For example, if I go into resources and I find over here flagger, I can put this street flagger from my library into this location, right? To show that I'm gonna be using this guy over there. And if I rotate this view, this guy, just to position it in the right like orientation. So in the 2D mode visuals, when I turn this on, I have to turn it on for the resources that I want to show that. It won't be turned on by default. And for a bunch of different resources in our library, you're already going to see a system defaults icon over here. So if there's an object that you want to see an icon that is not over there yet, you can request that by going into the the resource request over here, and then just like let us know which resource you want to ask an icon for. Okay. So basically now this one already has this icon from the library. So when I turn on my 2D view, like now that object looks somewhat like that. Okay. So for objects that are you already placed in, you already have it in your scenario, that already, if I that might not have, oh sorry, let me restart that. So for example, this fire hydrant, I placed this fire hydrant before this feature was available. So now when I go into 2D mode visuals over here and turn it on, like I won't be able to see that library of objects of icons for this object, right? Because this was done, this resource was placed before I actually this feature was available. But now if I place in the same object over there, hydrant, right? So if I place the same object from my library in here, you see that now this object, the new one, will have that option on the 2D view because it's assessing our new library, right? So like the new versions of these objects, right? So basically, if it's something that you want to apply for the resource that you already have there, you simply need to go in here and select the resource that you already have, click on the swap function, and then just select the same resource from the library. It will replace it by the same resource, but now this new version will come with the 2D icon, basically. Cool. So just one thing for you guys to make sure that you know that you can find these if like it's an object that you replace, and also if there's no icon in there, you can ask for us to add this to the library. Okay. So this now you can compare the 3D view to the 2D view over here. So like these objects are now replaced by 3D lines. And if I turn this off, you see like that the icon that I can barely see where they are, but if I turn this on, I can identify where these elements are. Okay. And for 2D objects, let's say, oh, sorry, linear objects, let's do like a new fence over here in this corner. So if I go into my fence category and select, let's say, this guy over here. So for all linear resources, next week, this will be available. Basically, when you do that and you confirm this, like again, if I change this view to 2D, I won't be able to see that fence that much because it's like a thin line. But if I go into the fence object, and going to 2D mode visuals, I can turn this on to show as a line when in 2D mode. So this will give me the controls of like replacing this fence panel, these fence lines with a, a 3D line basically. So I can put like a thickness in here. I can define like color and so on. So now when I am in 2D mode, in like you see that the 3D, this is how the fence looks like. And when I go in 2D, it looks like this. Okay, because that's what I placed in my 2D presentation visuals over there. Sorry, let me click on this again. So my 2D presentation visuals. Cool. Any questions? I saw someone put in a question over there on the chat. What was it about? Oh, you guys already answered?
Yeah, Ben asked the question, which we already answered. One thing I would add here is that for some of the resources, it will be the 2D mode visuals will be on by default, and then for some of them, it won't be. So as an example, for say a stop sign, you're not going to have, looking at it from the top view, a plan view, you're not going to be able to clearly see it. So for that, it will be by default on. For a crane, we're going to have, for, a lot of the cranes, we're going to have also a 2D symbol, but that is not going to be the default option because most people were going to want to see the actual profile of the crane to see, for example, the coverage. So that's the reason that it won't be on by default for some of the resources, and it will be for others.
Yep. There you go. So for example, this is the new one that I placed right now. So you see by default it's already turned on. I didn't need to turn everything on, but there was a stop sign here before, and that one is not being replaced, right? So there you go. Cool. And oh, by the way, you can also apply the same movement and like objects of like rotation and things like that with the 2D icon mode turned on. So it will give you like more power for you to put these legends and things like that. Okay, so this is our new 2D icon mode. So let's go into the next part of the presentation, which is the Project North, right? So the Project North basically is a definition that you put in for the project itself. It's not a scenario definition, and it will define a main orientation for that project, which will impact how your sketches and the resources are placed. And you can also define an anchor point for imports, right? So let's go back over here and see how can we define that. So in a scenario like this that is clean, I like to show a couple things in clean scenarios just so we can focus exactly what is being done over here. A scenario like this, if I place in a 3D object, let's say a shipping container, so this container, as you can see, will be aligned with our true north. So over here, if I click on this button, we can see that this object is aligned with our true north. You see like the X and Y arrows are pointing exactly aligned with that. So, and also whenever I draw an object, anything using a sketch, that sketch has the vertical and horizontal reference also aligned with my true north. Okay, so this is the true north. Cool. So what is the difference now is that I can come in into my project, and then inside this project and can go into my coordinate system. And in here now we have like this new option where you can put in like some local project coordinates. So when I add this, it will give me this panel where I can kind of like save a little title over here for the project coordinate that I'm using. And I can also define what is going to be a coordinate system for an origin position. So what does this mean? It's not something that like you're going to be using a lot yet, because we plan to have like more anchor points like that you can place all around your site. But basically the idea here is that you can type in a coordinate to define that this is going to be your new origin point for that project. So if you know, for example, like a reference point that all your models use or something like that, you can apply this in here. And then every time that you import a new model into the scenario, that model is going to show up on that spot with its origin point of the model snap to the origin point of this object. Okay, but I suggest that like this, not dwelling too much on this right now, because like the main thing over here is the angle to the true north. So I need to define what's going to be a main angle that I'm going to use every time that I place in an object. That object will be aligned with my true north, or with my project north, and also my sketch will be aligned with that. So a lot of times you're going to have these angle already like defining a drawing or something like that. You can simply type in an angle over here. Let's say I'm going to put it like 45 degrees. And then when I open that scenario again, now with that 45-degree angle placed, you will see that every time that I place in a resource from my library in here, that resource is now have like a 45-degree angle with the true north. Okay, also if I'm placing like an object we're using a sketch, you see that also my sketch has a 45-degree angle applied to it. Okay, so in a situation where you don't know your project north because it's not like what is the angle, because it's not defined by your drawing or something like that, one thing that you can do is that in cmBuilder, once you bring in your drawings and things like that, and you align everything the way that you want to see. Let's get this guy over here unprojected. So one thing that I can do is to measure these from my drawing. So let's say that I position this drawing in the right spot using my two-point positioning mode and things like that. But I want to define like a project north that's going to be aligned with the grid lines of this building. You see, like the fence itself is not aligned with that. Like this is, I'm talking only about the drawing, right? So the fence, it's not aligned with the building. Other things might not be aligned with the building, but I want to use the building as my reference of true north. So what I'm going to do over here is just going to my annotate function, going to line, and then you can draw a line that will go and align with one of these grid lines. I'm saying the line word too much. You can go ahead and place in like a line like this. And you can also now place in a line that it's going to be snapped to the vertical reference, right? So when you do these two lines, you can go into angle and you can see what is the angle between these two lines. So basically, this is a way for you to measure what is going to be the angle between the true north and your project north. So for this project, my angle that I need is 89.35 degrees. So if I go in and place this value now into my project north definition, this guy over here, I can now, every time that I place in a new object or every time that I create a sketch, this sketch will be created with that angle in mind, right? So this is a great way for us to save a lot of time, because every time that you place in a sketch, if you don't define the project north, every time that you place in an object from the resource library, that resource will be aligned with the true north. So now if I place in my hoist over here, for example, let's say hoist, instead of like rotating that hoist to make it align with my building, that hoist will be already aligned with my project north. So basically what you're gonna need to do is just to do like a 90-degree rotation. Cool. And this hoist is now aligned with that. Who put this Google logo over here? Someone made a prank, and now I've been pranked live. Anyways, so basically this is how you do it, right? So you can now define this project north, because it will make your life much easier whenever you're drawing things and so on, especially when you're using your sketch tool, right? So when you go and put in like a sketch and so on, every time that you like want to snap this, like now that if you turn this on, this will always give you like references according to the vertical and the horizontal positioning of these references. Cool. There you go. So now I have like a little line over there that's all aligned with my project north. Was a question on the chat?
Yeah, we have a question about, so the question is, I recently used Project North to set up a site and was curious if implementing a view cube could simplify viewing front and side elevations for BIM import. So this would be a feature request, but I'll
Yes.
wait now.
Awesome. Feature request. This is a great opportunity to remind everyone that if you have an idea of a feature request, even if you already communicated with some of us in a call or something like that, and you should create a feature request, like going over here, the question mark, and click to create a feature request. So we will know what you want, right? So basically, for example, if two people on this call right now wants the view cube, both of you should come in here and request for that, because it titles up for us to like know which users want that, and like also it goes up in the rank, so we will be the things that we build next, right? So please do as many feature requests as you want. We can't promise like when we're going to deliver these features, but it's the best way for you to let us know what you want and steer the boat in the correct direction over here. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Cool. Yeah, so this is the project north, right? So you can now use that to, and I really suggest that you do that like at the beginning of your project, just so you, every time that you place new things, you're going to be saving a little bit of time with like less clicks and so on, because now things will be aligned with to your project. Cool. Okie dokie. So, what else for the project north? I think that we're good. So let's go into our excavation updates. So let me go in here, and there you go. So excavation updates. These are two things that are like, the first one is one of the most important updates that we've done recently in terms of performance, right? So a lot of our users were using the excavation tool in a way where like you would duplicate like an excavation cut and then change the elevation of that cut, and that would create some sort of calculation loop on our end over here, because whenever you had like an excavation that were sharing the same faces as other cuts or other fills or other excavation operations, this would create a calculation loop in our end, and then the performance would go down every time that you create one of these duplicates or you snap like an excavation face to another, right? So this is something that we, like a lot of users have mentioned that, and now we have a new update where you can apply a version 3 of the excavation algorithm to your scenarios, okay? So for every new scenario now, it will come with the version 3. But for duplicated scenarios in existing scenarios, might still be using the version 2, right? So the way to change that is simply you go into your project page, and inside your project page, you can see like the list of scenarios that you have, and then you can click on this 3-dot menu over here, go into scenario settings, and then you see that my scenario over here is using the version 2 because it's a node scenario, has been duplicated. Even though I duplicated it today, it has been duplicated from a node scenario, so it's going to carry on like the same settings as the previous scenario. So now I can change this to the version 3 manifold, and then this will apply that new algorithm to your excavation. So for everyone that ever had any performance issues with excavation, just keep that in mind, that you can now apply this new algorithm to it, and this will really improve like the speed of your work. Okay, and for people that are starting new scenarios or like things like that, you don't need to worry, because this is going to be the default from now on. Okay, cool. So other updates in terms of this keeps coming back to the beginning. Other updates to the excavation tool is this projections visibility. So before, every time that you would create an excavation, so let's go back to this one over here, that has an excavation applied to it, right? So if I go and flip through my milestones and go to excavation mode, actually, let me turn off like what I want to show today. So basically, the change that we've done is this guy over here. Dirt shows projections. So the idea is that every time that you have like an excavation cut, if you have this turned off, which it is representing what it was before, like you do an excavation cut, that's gonna remove like the elements that are projected on that area. So as you can see over here, I have a zone that is projected on the ground, and this zone is not showing on my excavation element over here. Also, if I create a 3D line that goes through this area, as you can see, like that excavation is cutting through that. Same thing with a drawing. So if I have a drawing already projected over there, as you can see, the drawing also will be cut out by that excavation tool. However, if I go now into my excavation operation, go into excavation plan, edit excavation settings, and turn this on, what it means is that every time that there is an excavation operation, it can be any operation, like a drawing, oh, sorry, a fill, a cut, a ramp, like slopes or anything. These elements will show the parts that you have projected on them. So right now, like you see it, when I turn it on, this line is now showing on that excavation shape, okay? For elements that you place it from the annotate function, like zones, labels, and 3D lines, you cannot select individually which ones will be projected and which ones won't. So like every one of these, sorry, you can select if they are projected, but you can't select if they're going to show in the dirt in the excavation operations or not, right? So it's either all of them show, or either like them cannot we won't show. However, for the drawings, following up with Ben's question over there, for drawings like this, you can turn them on and off per drawing. So that's why over here I have this off. When I turn this on, include projection on dirt, you see that it will show that that drawing now following the shape of my excavation. Cool. So how to use this? Basically, a lot of people want to create zones and line markings on top of excavation, on the excavations and so on. And this will really help with that. Also, a lot of people want to use the excavation with foundation drawings projected on them. And this is also a great way for you to do that, because you can select which drawings you want to project, which ones you don't, right? So if you have like a drawing that shows over there, you can simply turn this element over here and this toggle, and this will show and remove that projection. Cool. And for the whole aspect of the excavation, you just need to go into the excavation plan, edit excavation settings, and then turn this on and off, right? So if you want a more cartoonish look, you keep this off. You want to like something that is more complete, you can turn this on. Okay. Awesome. So these are like a couple of updates that we've done with the excavation. Now let's take a look at some updates related to the 3D labels, right? So 3D labels, we've done updates in terms of the formatting. Now you have like the ability to format and put like some sort of text formatting into the labels, and also to apply links to them. So let's understand how this works. So if I go back over here in my second milestone where I have, let's disconnect this guy from the timeline, where I have this gate over here, right? So when I place in a 3D label by default, that 3D label, whoops, not a zone. Let me delete this guy over here, this gate shoot. So if I go in here and place in a 3D label, right? So this label will show up like that with the previous colors and elements that I had to it. But now what you can do with this label is that you can format the text in different ways. So you can like change the alignment. So for example, let's say that this is like a gate number 2, exit. Let's put it like over here, only trucks are allowed, something like that. I don't know if this is like a correct instruction for labels and so on, but now you can change your alignment, like with how this is going to be aligned. You can change your font to bold, italic, and so on and so forth. So like there's some customization available now for this tool, and then you can go ahead and place them on where you want. Okay, so this is like a minor update that give you like a little bit more customization power. But also what we have over here is also the ability for you to create a like to add a link to these labels. So if you click over here, add clickable link, this will apply that link. And let me go back over here because I lost the link that I want to show. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I had such a fun link prepared over here. Ah, let it go. Anyways, so basically the idea is that now you can come in here and place in links, right? So you can just type in like what is going to be the link that you want to access, and then basically when you click on this option now, like for people that are reviewing your scenario and so on and so forth, you can go and then put links to oh, there you go, to live feeds. Like for example, let's see how these pandas are doing over there in China. They are super happy and so on, right? So you can put like links to live feeds, you can put links to drawings, you can put links to whatever you want people to interact and be able to click on this. Basically, they just need to click on the label and then click on the link that will show up right over here. Cool. So this gives you like more customization as well for you to link to, I don't know, RFIs or like any other like systems that you guys use, ACC, Procore, or whatever, right? So that's a great way for you to coordinate things and put them in the same context. Okay, so these are our 3D label updates. So now let's go into something that is like kind of like a different way of using our 3D models to create and show a color sequence and of progress, right? So I will let me see if like this doesn't make sense yet for everyone, but like I will like quickly show what I mean over here. So basically, in a 3D model like this, let's say that I have a sequence of construction where I want to show this model going up from like showing the formwork task, then showing the rebar task, and then showing the concrete pour task, right? So I only have one 3D model, and from other workshops I already showed that if you go into the 3D model and you go into edit beam element, you can now apply a presentation visual where this visual you can highlight in your construction progress. Like every time that a new part shows up, it will be highlighted with this color over here, right? So this is a way for you to, let's see, like, let me show you how it works as of now. Basically, if you have like a scenario that is completed like this one, I can apply that rule of like highlighting the elements to my beam elements over here, and then we're going to presentation visuals. I can show like every new construction, and this model will be highlighted with like the green color, right? So what does that mean? It means that if I play my presentation, and I will play from a milestone that will save us some time. If I play from this milestone over here, for example, play from current slide, we will see that it every time that a new part shows up, that part was going to be highlighted in green, right? However, if I want to show that, well, like how I mentioned before, like when I show formwork, then rebar done, and so on and so forth, the way to do that, I'm going to show right now. Okay, so just to clear up our view over here, I'm going to hide this Google Mesh model, and I'm going to disconnect it from the timeline. Also, I'm going to hide my project map because I want to show you guys with just the 3D model, like what it would look like. The first thing that I need to do is define what is going to be the different steps that I want to show. I want to show in this example here today, I'm going to show formwork, rebar, and then the concrete pour, right? Also, I'm going to do that only for the level 1 and 2, just so to save some time. So basically, what we're going to do is I'm going to duplicate this model the amount of times that I need to show different steps. So in this case, I'm going to have like a main model over here. I'm going to name this model concrete. And I'm going to have like a secondary model that I'm going to name this guy formwork. And a third model that I'm going to name rebar. Okay. So right now, all of them are in the same spot, and they have the same colors and everything. The first thing that I need to do is to take these objects, like all of the model from formwork. I'm going to select edit beam elements, and then in here I'm going to change the color of all elements, and I'm going to put in a color code that I have over here in my presentation, that every formwork element is going to show up as yellow, and every rebar element is going to show up as orange. Okay, so for the formwork elements, I'm going to color them yellow, right? And if I hide like the concrete and the rebar over here, you're going to see that the formwork model is yellow. And for the rebar models, I'm going to go ahead and color them in orange. Cool. There you go. Also, just to simplify our work here today, I'm going to hide all the parts that are above. So level 1 is this level. Level 2 is this level. So I'm going to hide everything that is above these 2 levels, just so we can, like, it won't block our view. Okay, so I'm gonna take from all 3D models, I'm selecting all the 3 models over here, like it's gonna selecting rebar and formwork and everything, and I'm gonna disconnect them from the timeline just to clear our view for this example today. And also I'm gonna, for the formwork and the rebar models, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna hide also like the foundation parts, also to clear our view for this presentation. Okay, so I'm gonna do this quickly. So I'm gonna take all of these parts over here and I'm gonna remove them from my timeline. Okay, so now basically the only thing that I have visible for these models are my, for the concrete model, I have like the basement, and for the other, and in all the levels up to level 2, and for formwork and rebar, I have like only level 1 and 2. You guys are gonna understand in a minute why I'm doing this. So basically this is my starting point, right? So now what I need to do is to create my schedule, right? So I already have like an imported schedule that I created over here quickly, right? So basically it only has the start and end dates for formwork, rebar, concrete pour, formwork, rebar, concrete pour for level 1 and 2. So I'm gonna go and import a schedule, and from this schedule, I'm gonna select only the end dates for formwork, rebar, concrete pour, okay? Because I want to see the completion of these tasks. So when I apply this now, I'm gonna get my schedule already done. Okay, so this is just me setting up the process for me to show that progress. And so now what I need to do is I need to take, for the formwork model, I'm not going to apply any presentation visuals, because what I want to do is I wanted that for the level 1 parts, I want to set up the start and the end date at this milestone, and we'll only show those parts in yellow. Then when I go to the next milestone, because these ones already have like an end date set up, these parts are going to go away from my view, and the rebar model in orange is going to show, and it's going to go away in this milestone. And then on the concrete pour milestone, my concrete model is going to show up, and because it has the presentation visuals for new construction, it means that they will show up in green. And then from all the other milestones, they will it will keep it like on the original color. Okay, so let's do that. And basically I prefer to work with one model at a time. So I'm gonna hide my concrete in my rebar model. So now I can have access to the level 1 for level 1, level 2 for just the formwork. Okay, so now I'm gonna hold control, select all of these parts, and then I'm gonna go into the milestone formwork finish, and I'm gonna define the start and the end date for these objects over here. So when I go to the next formwork task, I'm gonna select all of these other parts, and I'm gonna define the start and the end date. Okay, so this means that this model now only show up at the moment that is defined as formwork. So when it goes away, it goes away. Okay, so for the rebar models, I can go and do the same thing. So I'm gonna go to the rebar, select everything that is on level 1 in the rebar. I'm gonna define the start and the end date. And for level 2, I'm gonna select everything that is on level 2 for rebar, start and end date. Okay, and for my concrete models now, I'm gonna only define the start date. Okay, so as we mentioned before, it's because the reason behind that is because I want to show them in green because of the start date, and then after that, they're gonna go and take their original colors. Okay, so for level 1, I'm gonna define just the start date, and for the concrete on level 2, I'm gonna go and define just the start date in here. Okay, so now with all of these kind of like sequence applied and so on, I can go in and like if I go back to the original view over here, we can have like the initial conditions gonna show my basement. When I go to the next milestone, only the formwork models are now showing in yellow. And then I go to the next milestone, that those yellow parts go away, and then the orange parts that represent the rebar comes in here. And then when it goes to the next milestone, I'm not seeing the green yet because I'm not in presentation mode, but these parts will show up in green presentation mode and then turn back to their original colors after this milestone. So the same thing applies for the levels above, right? So now if I go into a presentation slide over here, oh, just by the way, some of you may notice that the issue columns are not showing the correct colors. It's just because they are combined with the columns below, and all the rules that I applied were for that level above. So now
which you can use our new split geometry tool for to separate them.
Exactly. There you go. I'll show you in a minute how to do that. But basically now, if I play this from the beginning, we can see that like it will show. Actually, let me go back over here and apply the auto scale for the timeline, because I noticed that when I play this milestone, you see how like all the milestones are over here combining like in the very tight spot. We can go in the presentation settings and turn on auto scale the timeline. So now when I play here, I can see all the milestones like spread out on the width of my screen. So just so we know, like come back to this, we're gonna go into this view for initial conditions. Then we're gonna look at that for the formwork, this for the rebar, and then the parts that are the actual concrete pour will show up in green. And then when I go to the next milestone, they return back to the original colors, and so on and so forth. So it's an idea for me to kind of like color code these models. I know that for projects where you have like several models and you want to do like a lot of these kind of like customizations, it might become a little bit cumbersome because you need to duplicate the models and you need to coordinate the color coding between them and so on. But for most of the projects where you have like just like one structural model, one architectural model, and so on and so forth, you can build this very clearly to show like the different stages that you have on your schedule. Cool.
And just to add to this, you can obviously make it more granular to say break out your slabs from your verticals, but you can also utilize resources in conjunction with this. So if you want to have like a more granular view of rebar that, looks more like rebar, you can actually combine, this view of the formwork, representation of the formwork, with the rebar resource that's parametric. We also have, parametric version resource for formwork as well, if you want to go that route.
Yeah, exactly. So for the rebar, I could go in and place this, and then orient that properly over there with my model, and so on. Just like you can set over there. Cool. So basically now when you go to this milestone, it will show the rebar down and so on. And for like what Nikan mentioned before about the model split, this is our new tool for the model split, right? So these two objects over here are combined into one single mesh or geometry. We can right click on the beam model. So this is applies to the model, not to the element. So you can go and apply a beam model, and then you can click on the split function, and then you can click to create a 3D line. I suggest that for horizontal splits, you select object, because then you can place your sketch on a face of an object, right? And then you can go and draw like a line like this one. And you can even like select this line and snap it to like a surface. So that line over there is snapped to that surface. And now this is my splitting line. And then I can select these two objects and say that I want to split these two objects using this line. So like these objects are now separated. As you can see, I can select them separated, and I can hide them separated as well. Cool. There you go. Anything to add, Nikan?
Nope, that's it. We do have a question. Are there any suggestions for showing two line items at the same time? So for example, showing slab pour for level 4 at the same time as cladding start for level 1.
Yeah, so for those, I would suggest that if they are showing in the same milestone, like you can if they have like different tasks on your schedule, you can bring just one of these tasks, and then you edit the name to show like the two things are happening at the same time, and you just like assign them to the same milestone, basically. So you have like your slab pour and your cladding, slab pour on level 3 and your cladding on level 1. You can assign both to show on the same milestone. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. So this is our little diagram to show like what is that we want to set up for the elements color and the presentation visuals, and then how you align these models with your timeline. Okay, so heading towards the end of our session here today, I'm just going to show a little bit of like tips and tricks. So the first one is just that we changed how we organize the resources. So when you go into resource page right now, by default, these resources are organized by popular. So it means that you will see whatever is that you used latest for these objects will show up over here in your view, right? So if I go into popular, I can see like these categories, and then I can go also and like go into a specific category to see like the things that are used the most over here on the top, right? So we plan to have other sorting kind of like categories, right? So this is popular. Sorry, popular for now is for everyone, but we do want to like add new kind of like categories over there for you to sort, right? So probably the next one is going to be the most recently used. Okay. And the second tip and trick is that you have the saved views for consistent exports, right? So we know that a lot of times you want to create drawings out of your logistics elements, and sometimes you might try to like align the views properly in a way that you keep it consistent every time that you export the image, especially now with the 2D labels or 2D icons, sorry, you can start placing more of these elements to make it look like a drawing, right? So one thing that I suggest for that is you create a milestone something like this, for example, saved views. And by the way, this is actually something that we will create a feature for that, like very, very soon, where you'll be able to save views in the tree structure, not only on the presentation mode, but in the tree structure over here, there will be a new category called saved views. There will also be a new category called sections, so you can save sections as well. But basically, for now, what I would suggest is that you create a milestone either in the beginning or the end of your presentation, like this, saved views, and then in this milestone, when you go into your presentation slides, you can create. Let me do this from scratch. So you can create that milestone, and you save a camera angle or a couple of camera angles to your preference that will represent what will be the main orientation of your exports, right? So I can position my camera like this, then click on this save views, they'll go and capture a camera angle. And then now I have this as a saved view. And so I don't to prevent this from showing up on my presentations, I'm going to click on this button over here to hide this milestone from presentations. So every time that I play the presentation or send the link to someone, nobody will see like these slides on their presentation. But what it means is that like if I go and I want to export a 2D image out of this milestone here, for example, I can click on this saved view. It will assign the milestone one by default because it's this saved view is containing there. But then after that, you can just go into the view that you want to export. And now like you have this as your main camera angle for exports, right? So then you can go to export and share, export the current view, and then like export an image out of this to put your title block on top of that, and so on and so forth, right? So this idea will give you like a more consistent camera angle that you can apply every time that you export an image out of cmBuilder. So this is how the image looks like. And then you can still flip through the milestones and so on to see different things in this view. And if for some reason you get out of the view, you can just go open your presentation slide, apply that camera angle again, and then go into the milestone that you want to export the view again. Okay. Cool. Any pending questions on the chat, on the QA?
There was a question from Josh that I didn't get the reference to, but maybe you will know. The question is, what is the status of releasing the 2 custom terrains in the excavation tool?
Oof, Josh, I'm not sure what is the status on that tool. Again, this is not a tool that has been requested by a lot of people, so please do place your feature requests over there to make sure that you inform our team of what you want. But it's not something that we are actively working on right now. For the excavation, our major lift recently was that performance update, and now we are looking at like what are the next things that we're gonna do for the excavation. So if you're placing your your vote over there, like it will help us like get to that faster. Exactly. Okay, but like the feature that he's requesting, as far as I know, is just that you have the ability for you to create multiple custom terrains, and then from these multiple custom terrains, you can assign them to different milestones or create cuts and fills, as like focus on one of these terrains. Choose which terrain you want to cut to or fill to. Okay. Make a feature request as well. Can you explain this comment?
Josh's comment garnered some interest. He's gonna get some more votes.
There you go. Go ahead and put those over there, guys. Cool. So this gets us to the end of our session, right? So just wrapping up what we discussed today, we talked about 2D icon mode, Project North, excavation updates, 3D label updates, color-coded sequence, and some tips and tricks, right? So this is the main part of our workshop. So if you guys, anyone wants to rush back to your Thanksgiving preparations, you can now. But if there's any questions or any things that you would like me to cover, like in these last few minutes, we are here to help you guys. Okay. Cue the music.
One thing I will recap that Pedro mentioned is that if you see a resource that you feel like should have a 2D icon and we don't have one for it yet, you can put in a request for it, similar to how we do resource requests. Or if you think it should have a different icon, so say like, you know, in the UK or different region, there might be a different icon that's commonplace that's used for that resource. Just
Yep.
let us know.
But if you do have premium subscription, let's say, for example, that this icon, this item over here doesn't have an icon, or the icon that is in there is not exactly what you want to customize that. Basically, the idea is that you can click on the plus button, click on this plus item over here, and this will bring you to like a selection. One thing that I use a lot is like, let's say, this site over here, flat icon, it gives you like access to a lot of different icons that you can choose from. So if I like putting like a dumpster over here, for example, like they'll show like a bunch of different dumpster icons. So you can download one of these guys, for example, PNG, free download. And then when you go into your dumpster here, I don't know why there are two in there. I can select this guy, go into tool mode visuals, turn it on, and then I will go into my icon library and then put in that new dumpster icon over there, and it will show up like that. And then when I go into my 2D mode, this will show up like this, right? But there are items that you really want to see the shape of it. Keep in mind that this replaces the 3D object by the icon. So if you want to see the shape or like that is more accurate, it might be better for you to keep it outside of the 2D icon view. Or something that I just thought of, you can maybe like take a marker like this one, for example, and put it over here. And then in this marker, you can go and adjust your presentation visuals to show something like this, right? You know, so it's an option as well.
Pedro, do you know the format and size requirements for the 2D icons if you're uploading them yourself?
Uh, I don't think I know that. I should, but I don't.
Let me
Let's
ask
see.
the team.
So formats
Let me ask the
JPEG,
resources team.
PNG, and bitmap. And Shane is answering over there. We scaled them down to 256, and I think it's a square kind of like ratio. Cool.
The user guide for this will be out soon and we'll have the specs in there.
There you go. This is the time that I do a Marlon Brando impression, and I say that you come to me and you ask for respect. I should have put the cotton inside my mouth to get the little cheeks, you know.
Yeah, I thought you're gonna have the full costume. I
Yeah.
thought maybe you'll go with giving us the recipe for that one turkey that you made that turned out really good.
There you go, guys. Thanks a lot for coming here today. And I wish all of you like a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate it. If not, the rest of your day and week, it's going to be amazing. Cool. See you all. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great Thanksgiving.